Hey, my reactor. So I'm back again. The fight with Kindred, chapter 6. I sponged Rufus off as best as I could and bandaged his ribs with pieces of cloth that Nigel brought me. The ribs were very tender on the left side. Rufus said the bandage made breathing a little less painful, though, and I was glad of that. But he was still sick. His fever was still with him, and the doctor didn't come. Rufus had fits of coughing now and again, and that seems to be agonizing to him because of his ribs. Sarah came in to see him and to hug me, and she was more alarmed at the marks of his beating than at his ribs or his fever. His face was black and blue and deformed looking with its lumpy swellings. He will fight, she said angrily. Rufus opened his puffy slit of eyes and looked at her, but she went on anyway. I seen him pick a fight just out of meanness, she said. He's out to get himself killed. She could have been his mother, caught between anger and concern and not knowing which to express. She took away the basin Nigel had brought me and returned it full of clean, cool water. Where's his mother? I asked her softly as she was leaving. She drew back from me a little, gone, dead, not yet. She glanced at Rufus to see whether he was listening. His face was turning away from us. Gone to Baltimore, she whispered. I'll tell you about it tomorrow. I let her go without questioning her further. It was enough to know that I would not be suddenly attacked for once. There would be no Margaret to protect Rufus from me. He was thrashing about weakly when I went back to him. He cursed the pain, cursed me, then remembered himself enough to say he didn't mean it. He was burning up. Ruth, he moved his head from side to side and did not seem to hear me. I dug into my denim bag and found the plastic bottle of aspirin, a big bottle nearly filled. A big bottle nearly full. There was enough to share. Ruth, he squinted at me. Listen, I had medicine from my own time. I poured him a glass of water from the pitcher beside his bed and shook out 2 aspirin tablets. These could lower your fever, I said. They might ease your pain too. Will you take them? What are they? They're called aspirin. In my time, people used them against headaches, fevers, other kinds of pain. He looked at the 2 tablets in my hand, then at me. Get them to me. He had trouble swallowing them and had to chew them up a little. My Lord, he muttered. Anything tastes that bad must be good for you. I laughed and wet a cloth in the basin to bathe his face. Nigel came in with a blanket and told me the doctor was held up at a difficult childbirth. I was to stay the night with Rufus. I didn't mind. Rufus was in no condition to take an interest in me. I would have thought it would be more natural, though, for Nigel to stay. I asked him about it. Mr. Tom knows about you, said Nigel softly. Mrs. Rose and Mr. Kevin both told him. He figured you know enough to do some doctoring, more than doctoring, maybe. He saw you go home. I know. I saw it too. I looked up at him. He was a head taller than me now, and saw nothing but curiosity in his eyes. If my vanity had frightened him, the fear was long dead. I was glad of that. I wanted his friendship. Master Tom says you were supposed to take care of him and you better do a good job. Aunt Sarah says you call her if you need help. Thanks. Thank her for me. He nodded, smiled a little. Good thing for me you showed up. I wanted to be with Curry now. It's so close to her time. I grinned. Your baby? Nigel? I thought it might be. Better be mine. She's my wife. Congratulations. Mr. Ruth paid a free preacher from Mr. Rufus paid a free preacher from town to come and say the same words they do for white folks and free niggas. Didn't have to jump no broomstick. I nodded, remember what I read about the slaves' marriage ceremonies. They jumped broomsticks, sometimes backwards, sometimes forward, depending on local customs. Or they stood before their master and were pronounced husband and wife. Or they followed any number of other practices, even to hiring a minister and having things done as Nigel had. None of it made any difference legally, though. No slave marriage was legally binding. Even Alice's marriage to Isaac was merely an informal agreement since Isaac was a slave, or he has been a slave. I hope now he was a free man, well on his own to Pennsylvania. Y'all, my allergies is killing me. Dana, I looked up at Nigel. He had whispered my name so softly I had hardly heard him. Dana, was it white man? Startled, I put a finger to my lips, cautioning and waving him away. Tomorrow, I promised. But he wasn't as cooperative as I had been with Sir. Was it Isaac? I nodded, hoping he would be satisfied and let the subject drop. Did he get away? Another nod. He left me looking relieved. I stayed up with Rufus until he managed to fall asleep. The aspirin did seem to help. Then I wrapped myself in a blanket, pulled the room's two chairs together in front of the fireplace, and settled in it as comfortable as I could. It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. The doctor arrived late the next morning to find Rufus' fever gone. The rest of his body was still bruised and sore, and his ribs still kept him breathing shallowly and struggling not to cough. But even with that, he was much more less miserable. I had got him a breakfast tray from Sarah, and he had invited me to share the large meal she had prepared. I ate hot biscuit with butter and peach preserve, drank some of his coffee, and had a little cold ham. It was good and filling. He had the eggs, the rest of the ham, the corn, cakes. There was too much of everything, and he didn't feel like eating very much. Instead, he sat and watched me with amusement. Daddy do some cussing if he came in here and found us eating together, he said. I put down my biscuit and reined in whatever part of my body I left in 1976. He was right. What are you doing then? Trying to make trouble? No, he won't bother us. Eat. The last time someone told me he wouldn't bother me, he walked in and beat the skin off my back. Yeah, I know about that, but I'm not Nigel. If I tell you to do something and he doesn't like it, he'll come to me about it. He won't whip you for following my orders. He's a fair man. I looked at him startled. I said, fair? He repeated, not likable. I kept quiet. His father wasn't a monster he could have been with the power he held over his slave. He wasn't a monster at all. Just an ordinary man who sometimes did the monstrous things his society said were legal and proper. But I had seen no particular fairness in him. He did as he pleased. If you told him he wasn't being fair, he would whoop you for talking back. At least the Tom Wayne I had known would have. Maybe he had mellowed. Stay, said Rufus. No matter what you think of him, I won't let him hurt you. And it's good to eat with someone I could talk to for a change. That was nice. I began to eat again, wondering why he was such in a good mood this morning. He had come a long way from his anger the night before, from threatening not to tell me what Kevin was. You know, said Rufus thoughtfully, you still look mighty young. You pulled me out the river 13 or 14 years ago, but you look like you had been just a kid back then. Uh-oh, Kevin didn't explain that part, I guess. Explain what? I shook my head. Just, let me tell you how it been for me. I can't tell you why things are happening as they are, but I can tell you the order of their happening. I hesitated, gathering my thoughts. When I came to you at the river, it was June 9th, 1976 for me. When I got home, it was still the same day. Kevin told me I had only been gone a few seconds. Seconds? Wait, let me tell you all at once. Then you could have all the time you need to digest it and ask questions. Later on that same day, I came to you again. You were 3 or 4 years older and busy trying to set the house fire. When I went home, Kevin told me only a few minutes had passed. The next morning, June 10th, I came to you because you fallen out of the tree. Kevin and I came to you. I was here nearly 2 months, but when I got home, I found that I had only. But when I got home, I found that I had lost only a few minutes or an hour or June 10th. You mean after 2 months, I arrived home the same day I had left? Don't ask me how, I don't know. After 8 days at home, I came back here. Wait a minute, y'all. I faced him silently for a moment. And Ruth, now that I'm here, now that you're safe, I want to find my husband. He observed this slowly, frowning as though he was translating it from another language. Then he waved vaguely towards his desk, a new larger desk that he had had on my last visit. The old one had been nothing more than a little table. This one had a roll top and plenty of drawer space both above and below the work surface. His letters are in the middle drawer there. You can have them if you want. They have his addresses. But Dana, you're saying you're saying, wow, I've been growing up. Somehow, time has been almost standing still for you. I was at his desk hunting through the cluttered drawers for the letters. It hasn't still, it hasn't stood still. I said, I'm sure my last two visits here has aged me quite a bit. No matter what my calendar say at home, I found the letters, three of them, short notes on large pieces of papers that had been folded, sealed with sealing wax, and mailed without an envelope. Here, my Philadelphia address, Kevin said in one. Here, if I can get a decent job, I'll be here for a while. That was all, except for the addresses. Kevin wrote books, but he never cared much for writing letters. At home, he tried to catch me in a good mood and get me to take care of all his correspondence for him. I'll be an old man, said Rufus, and you'll still come to me looking like you do now. I shook my head. Ruth, if you don't start being more careful, you'll never live to be an old man. Now that you're grown up, I might not be able to help you much. The kind of trouble you get into as a man might be as old woman to me as it is to you. Yes, but this time thing, I shrugged. Damn it, there must be something mighty crazy about both of us. Dana, I never heard of anything like this happening to anyone else. Neither have I. I looked at the other two letters, one from New York and one from Boston. And the Boston one, he was talking about going to Maine. I wonder what was driving him further and further north. He had been interested in the West, but Maine? I'll write to him, said Ruth. I'll tell you we're here. He'll come running back. I'll write him, Ruth. I have to mail the letter. All right. I just hope he hasn't already taken off for Maine. Wayne opened the door before I could answer. He brought in another man who turned out to be the doctor, and my leisure time was over. I put Kevin's letters back into Rufus' desk. That seems the best place to keep them. Took away the breakfast tray, brought the empty basin he asked for, stood by while the doctor asked Wayne whether I had any sense or not, and whether I could be trusted to answer simple questions accurately. Wayne said yes twice without looking at me, and the doctor asked his questions. Was I sure Rufus had a fever? How did I know? Had he been delirious? Did I know what delirious meant? Smart nigga, wasn't I? I hated the man. He was short and slight, black-haired and black-eyed, pompous, condescending, and almost as ignorant medically as I was. He guessed he wouldn't bleed Rufus since the fever seemed to be gone. Bleed him? He guessed a couple of ribs were broken, yes. He rebandaged them sloppily. He guessed I could go now. He had no more use for me. I escaped to the cookhouse. Cookhouse, what's the matter with you? Said Sarah when she saw me. I shook my head. Nothing important. Just a stupid little man who may be one step from spells and good luck charms. What? Don't pay any attention to me, sir. Do you have anything for me to do out here? I like to stay out of that house for a while. Always something to do out here. You have anything to eat? I nodded. She lifted her head and gave me one of her down-the-nose look. Well, I put enough on his tray. Here, knead this dough. She gave me a bowl of bread dough that had risen and was ready to be kneaded down. He's all right, she asked. He's healing. Was Isaac all right? I glanced at her, yes. Nigel said he didn't think Mr. Rufus told what happened. He didn't. I managed to talk him out of it. She laid her hand on my shoulder for a moment. I hope you stay around for a while, girl. Even his daddy can't talk him out of much these days. Well, I'm glad I was able to, but look, you promised to tell me about his mother. Not much to tell. She had two more babies, twins, sickly little things. They linger around. They lingered a while, then died one after the other. She almost died too. She went kind of crazy. The birth had mm-mm. The birth had left her pretty bad off anyhow. Sick, hurt inside. She fought with Mr. Tom. Got so she screamed at him every time she saw him, cussing and going on. She was hurting most of the time. Couldn't get out of bed. Found her sister came and got her, took her to Baltimore, and she's still there, still sick, still crazy for what I know. I just hope she stays there. That overseer, that overseer, that overseer, Jake Edwards, he's a cousin of hers, and he all the mean low white trash we need around here. Jake Edwards was the overseer then. Whalen had begun hiring overseers. I wonder why, but before I could ask, two house servants came in, and Sarah deliberately turned her back to me, ended the conversation. I began to understand what had happened later, though, when I asked Nigel where Luke was. So, said Nigel quietly, and he wouldn't say anything more. Rufus told me the rest. You shouldn't have asked Nigel about that. He told me when I mentioned the incident. I wouldn't have if I known Rufus was still in bed. The doctor had given him a purgative and left. Rufus had poured the purgative into his chamber pot and ordered me to tell his father he'd taken it. He had had his father send me back to him so that I could write my letters to Kevin. Luke did his work. I said, how could your father sell him? He worked all night. He worked all right and had the hands, and the hands will work hard for him, mostly without the cowhide. But sometimes he didn't show much sense. Rufus stopped, began a deep breath, caught himself and grimaced in pain. You're like Luke in some way, he continued. So you better show some sense yourself, Dana. You're on your own this time. But what did he do wrong? What am I doing wrong? Luke, he would just go ahead and do what he wanted to do no matter what Daddy said. Daddy always said he thought he was right. One day, maybe 2 years after you left, Daddy got tired of it. New Orleans trader came through and Daddy said he would be better to sell Luke than to whip him until he ran away. I closed my eyes, remembering the big man, hearing again his advice to Nigel on how to defy the whites. It had caught up with him. Do you think the trader took him all the way to New Orleans? I asked. Yeah, he was getting a load together to ship them down there. I shook my head. Poor Luke. Are there cane fields in Louisiana now? Cane, cotton, rice, they grow plenty down there. My father's parents worked in the cane fields there before they went to California. Luke could be a relative of mine. Just make sure you don't wind up like him. I haven't done anything. Don't go teaching nobody else to read. Oh, yeah. Oh, I might not be able to stop Daddy if he decides to sell you. Sell me? He doesn't own me. Not even by the law here. He doesn't have any paper saying he owns me. Dana, don't talk stupid. But in town once, I heard a man brag how he and his friends had caught a free black, tore up his papers, and sold him to the trader. I said nothing. He was right. Of course, I had no rights, not even any papers to be torn up. Just be careful, he said quietly. I nodded. I thought I could escape from Maryland if I had to. I didn't think it would be easy, but I thought I could do it. On the other hand, I didn't see how even someone much wiser than I was in the ways of the time could escape from Louisiana, surrounded as they would be by water and slave states. I would have to be careful, all right, and be ready to run if I seemed to be in any danger of being sold. I'm surprised Nigel is still here, I said. Then I realized that might be a very bright thing to say, even to Rufus. I will have to learn to keep more of my thoughts to myself. Oh, Nigel ran away, said Rufus. Patrollers brought him back, though, hungry and sick. They had whipped him, and Daddy whipped him some more. Then Aunt Sarah doctored him, and I told Daddy into letting me keep him. I think my job was harder. I don't think Daddy relaxed until Nigel Murray Curry. Man marries his children. No, man marries has children. He's more likely to stay where he is. You sound like a slaveholder already. He shrugged. Would you have sold Luke? No, I like him. Would you sell anyone? He hesitated. I don't know. I don't think so. I hope not, I said, watching him. You don't have to do that kind of thing. Not all slaveholders do that. It's long. I took my dinner bag from where I had hidden it under his bed and sat down at his desk to write the letters using one of his large sheets of papers with my pen. I didn't want to bother dipping the quill and steel pen on his desk into ink. Dear Kevin, I'm back and I want to go north too. Let me see your pen when you finish, said Lucius. All right. I went on writing, feeling myself strangely near tears. It was as though I was really talking to Kevin. I began to believe I would see him again. Let me see the other things you brought with you, said Rufus. I swung the bag onto his bed. You can look, I said, and continue writing. Not until I was finished with the letter did I look up to see what he was doing. He was reading my book. Here's the pen, I said casually, and I waited to grab the book the moment he put it down. But instead of putting it down, he ignored the pen and looked up at me. This is the biggest lot. This is this is the biggest lot of abolition trash I ever saw. No, it isn't, I said. That book wasn't even written until a century after slavery was abolished. Then why the hell are they still complaining about it? I pulled the book down so that I could see the page he had been reading. A paragraph of Sonia Truth stared back at me, sullenly eyes. Beneath the picture was a part of the text of one of her speeches. You're reading history, Ruth. Turn a few pages and you'll find a white man named J.D.B. Debo, claiming that slavery is good because among other things it gives poor whites something to look down on. That's history. It happens whether it offends you or not. Quite a bit it offended me, but there's nothing I could do about it. And there was other history that he must not read. Too much of it hasn't happened yet. Sonia True, for instance, was still a slave. If someone brought her from her New York owners and brought her south before the Northerners' law could free her, she might spend the rest of her life picking cotton. And there were two important slave children right here in Maryland. The older one living in Talbot County will be called Frederick Douglass after a name change or two. The second growing up a few miles south in Dorchester County was Harriet Tubman. Yeah, Harriet Rose, eventually to be called Harriet Tubman someday. She was going to what up? She was going to coast. She was going to cost Eastern Shore plantation owners a huge amount of money by guiding 300 of their runaway slaves to freedom. And further down in Southampton, Virginia, a man named Nat Turner was biding his time. There was more, I had said. I couldn't do anything to change history. Yet, if history could be changed, this book, in the hands of a white man, even a sympathetic white man, might be the thing to change it. History like this could send you down to join Luke, said Rufus. Didn't I tell you to be careful? I wouldn't have let anyone else see it. I took it from his hand, spoke more softly. Or are you telling me I shouldn't trust you either? He looked startled. Hell, Dana, we have to trust each other. You said that yourself. But what if my daddy went through that bag of yours? He could if he wanted to. You couldn't stop him. I said nothing. You never had a whooping like he give you if he found that book. Some of that reading. He'd take you to be another Denmark Vesey. You know who Vesey was? Yes, a freeman who had plotted to free others violently. You know what they did to him? Yes, then put the book in the fire. I held the book for a moment, then opened it to the map of Maryland. I tore the map out. Let me see, said Rufus. I handed him the map. He looked at it and turned it over. Since there was nothing on the back but a map of Virginia, he handed it back to me. That will be easier to hide, he said. But you know, if a white man sees it, he'll figure you mean to use it to escape. I'll take my chances. He shook his head in disgust. I tore the book in several pieces and threw it into the hot coals in his fireplace. The fire flamed up and swallowed the dry paper, and I found my throat shifting to nausea, books burning. Repressive society always seems to understand the dangers of wrong ideas. Seal your letter, said Rufus. There was a wax and a candle on the desk. There. I'll send the letters as soon as I can as soon as I get to town. I obeyed, dripping hot wax on my fingers. Dana. I glanced at him, caught him watching me with unexpected inten- intensity. Yes, his eyes seemed to slide away from mine. That mouth is still bothering me. Listen, if you want me to get that letter to town soon, you put the map in the fire too. I turned to face him, dismayed. More blackmail? I had thought that was over between us. I had hoped it was over. I needed so much to trust him. I didn't dare stay with him if I couldn't trust him. I wish you hadn't said that, Ruth, I told him quietly. I went over to him, fighting down anger and disappointment, and began putting things that he had scattered back into my bag. Wait a minute, he caught my hand. You get so damn cold when you're mad. Wait, for what? Tell me what you're mad about. What, indeed, could I make him see why I thought his blackmail was worse than my own? It was. He threatened to keep me from my husband if I did not submit to his whims and destroy paper that might help me get free. I acted out of desperation. He acted out of whimsy or anger, or so it seemed. Ruth, there are things we just can't bargain on. This is one of them. You're going to tell me what we can't bargain on? He sounded more surprised than indignant. You're damn right I am, I spoke very softly. I won't bargain away my husband or my freedom. You don't have either to bargain. Neither do you. He stared at me with at least as much confusion as anger, and that was encouraging. He could have let his temper flare, could have driven me from the plantation very quickly. Look, he said through his teeth, I'm trying to help you. Are you? What do you think I'm doing? Listen, I know Kevin tried to help you. He made things easy for you by keeping you with him, but he couldn't really protect you. He didn't know how. He couldn't even protect himself. Daddy almost had to shoot him when you disappeared. He was fighting and cursing at Daddy. At first, Daddy didn't even know why. I'm the one who helped Kevin get back on the place. You? I told Daddy into seeing him again, and it wasn't easy. I may not be able to talk him into anything for you if he sees that map. I see. He waited watching me. I wanted to ask him what he would do with my letter if I didn't burn the map. I wanted to ask, but I didn't want to hear an answer that might send me out to face another patrol or earn another whooping. I wanted to do things the easy way if I could. I wanted to stay here and let a letter go to Boston and bring Kevin back to me. So I told myself the map was more a symbol than a necessity anyway. If I had to go, I knew how to follow the North Star at night. I had made a point of learning, and by day, I knew how to keep the rising sun to my right and a setting sun to my left. I took them out from Ruth's desk and dropped into the fireplace. It darkened, then burst into flames. I can manage without it, I said quietly. No need for you to, said Rufus. You'll be all right here. You're home. Oh, that was long. So I'll be back with chapter 7 of the fight indirectly by my